Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Purwanti and today I'm going to talk about complex sentence. Here are the outlines. First, the definition and the characteristic of complex sentence. Second, the importance of complex sentence. And then the third, the examples of complex sentences. Now, let's talk about this one by one. First, what is the definition of complex sentence? So complex sentence is a combination of independent and dependent clause, and it is normally followed by a connector. And the characteristic of a complex sentence is normally it consists of at least one independent clause and one dependent clause, and of course a connector. Alright, so that is the definition and the characteristic of complex sentences. And why do we need to use complex sentence? Right, so for your information, complex sentences show relationship between clauses such as cause and effect, contrast, and time relationship. For example, I took a walk because I need exercise. So that is the example of complex sentence. And then complex sentences can stimulate the complicated thinking required to understand certain kinds of ideas, such as logic. And also complex sentence can force the reader to focus on one part of the sentence or one idea rather than another part of sentence. For example, the lecturer decided to give reward to his students since giving reward is more effective than giving punishment. And finally, complex sentence can gather small choppy sentences into one more complex ideas. So that's why sometimes instead of using simple sentences, sometimes complex sentence can be more effective to convey our ideas. And then, what are the characteristics of complex sentences? So first, complex sentence can begin with independent clause or dependent clause. The choice is, of course, up to the writer. But the thing that you have to remember, if you put independent clause in the beginning of the sentence, you don't need any comma. But if you put a dependent clause in the first sentence, then you need comma before the connector. And these are the examples of complex sentences. First, although it was raining, they decided to go for a walk. So in this sentence, the dependent clause is although it was raining. And as you notice, it is started with the connector, and then we use comma because the dependent clause is in the beginning of the sentence. And then the second examples, she studied hard because she wanted to pass the exam. If you notice this sentence, you will find that the independent clause is in the beginning of the sentence and then followed by the connector. So that's why we don't need comma, because the independent clause is in the beginning of the sentence. And then finally, the book that I borrowed from the library was fascinating. So in this case, the connector that describes more about the subject of the book. So the book that I borrowed from the library is the subject here. And then as you can see, the dependent clause is that I borrowed from the library. And then the main clause is the book was fascinating. So that's the examples of the complex sentence. We are going to talk more about the dependent clause in the other video. So that's all in this meeting. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.